Hello everyone, this is Pastor Tommy McMurtry here. I just wanted to take a little bit of time and share a video with you that I found from my trip to Israel back in 2000. Now some of you might have seen my video I did with Pastor Major showing the truth about the Temple Mount location. We've been lied to by the historians and everybody over where Solomon's temple was and where it's going to be rebuilt, and there's a lot of focus politically on a specific spot that the Muslims are in possession of right now. And I think that's going to eventually be used to pretty much get us involved in World War III. But at the end of the day, what they're planning on building there is clearly a temple for the Antichrist. There's absolutely no doubt about that at all. And so I'm going to show you some footage of the Temple Mount that we took when I was there. And you'll also get to see me at the Wailing Wall with a coffee filter on my head. So no laughing at that. When you watch, if you're going to watch this, you have to promise no laughing at the coffee filter on the head. So I'm going to hold you to that. All comments about the coffee filter will be deleted. But anyway, one of the main reasons I want to show you this too, I want you to listen to just some of the baloney that we are being fed on this tour. Now, while the one you'll hear a Jewish tour guide, you'll be able to tell by the accent, he was a Jew, he was lost. But, you'll hear some stuff, too, from the leader of our group. And I do believe these were good people. I believe they were well-meaning people, but they had gotten caught up in the hype of the Jewish fables that were being told, along with some of the modern books that have been written. You're going to see him saying some foolishness about how the Dome of the Rock doesn't need to come down. The real location is next to the Dome of the Rock because of the fact that the Eastern Gate, if you look at that area, it's kind of off-centered from where the Dome of the Rock is, and they're saying that the temple should actually be built directly behind that. Well, was a big Hal Lindsey thing from one of his books, and also the Left Behind books that were just coming out around that time had made a big deal about that. But the truth is, it's just not that mountain at all. That is a Catholic, Muslim, Jewish fable that they have all adopted, based on years ago, the Muslims, when they conquered the real Temple Mount area, they took two stones known as Qibla stones, and they moved them to that other location, which would have been the fortress of Antonia that you'll hear him mention. And whenever they did that, they had this belief that made that become the location, because they moved a couple stones that were supposedly from the original temple. But the stones wouldn't even have been from the original temple. Jesus said there wouldn't be one stone left upon another. And so watch that whole video. You'll see that. But I just want you to see some of this footage and see some of the foolishness, see the Wailing Wall and some of the weird stuff that goes on there. And hopefully you'll get a kick out of this. So anyway, here we go.
In the Kidron Valley, there's a Christian cemetery, and from here, for instance, we can't see Gethsemane. Further toward the eastern old city wall, you can see the
this is the supposed
gate.
location.
This is the eastern gate, okay, which was too reconstructed by Suleiman the Magnificent. You can see the old city wall,
right there's
and
what they call the Eastern Gate.
Cemetery,
I'll say
which
something
was
about that in a little
in
bit.
front of the gate and the city wall. Behind the city wall is the temple area, and in the heart of the temple area, you can see the Dome of the Rock, which was built in 691 AD by Abdul Malik. This is actually the place where they believe, the Jews, that King Solomon built the first temple, destroyed by the Babylonian in 500
If you move the camera a little more over to the left, you'd have actually seen the location.
Destroyed by the Romans, by Titus. The Muslims adopting this place as the third holy place after Mecca and Medina, since they believe that Muhammad, after his death, he ascended to heaven from Medina by riding his horse wing from via the temple area to heaven.
People have talked about the fact that the big mosque will have to come down. It really doesn't. If you look in from the Eastern Gate, it's sat just straight inside the Eastern Gate, and there's plenty of room for it to be built without that mosque coming down. Whether it comes down or not, the temple can be built. There's a little cupola thing back there that actually sits on a huge stone that probably the Ark of the Covenant sat on in the temple, which will be rebuilt in the exact same spot. So it's believed that it'll be straight inside the Eastern Gate, which will give plenty of room for it just inside there without the mosque coming down. A lot of people are worried about that. Well, how's that thing going to come down before the temple can be rebuilt? It doesn't have to. It'll be built right in there. Then the Fortress of Antonia, of course, is back over on the far corner over there that we were in the other day. All right.
That is not the Fortress of Antonia. Thousands of soldiers would not have fit in there. Thousands of soldiers would have fit in that area, though. So here we are at the Wailing Wall.
Not confusing you. Now, I'm going to the cashier to get the ticket, and 10 o'clock I will meet you there. Women like to go into the Western Wall. You go this way.
Women have their own section. Gentiles have a section. The Jews have a section.
Lapoo. Lapoo.
Now we're about to see an underground area that they excavated that goes to some of the areas closest to where Solomon's temple supposedly was. Right there, that Western Tunnels thing, supposedly that's a wall that they built, and behind that are tunnels that lead to the Ark of the Covenant. Right here is the section that they say is closest to the temple. All your Israel tour guide people talk about how like this is this top secret area that only high level guys can get you back into, and they'll get you back there, but everybody gets to go back there except for women. Women are not allowed to go back there. And there they are doing their weird hocus pocus dancing. And there I am with the coffee filter. Yeah, no laughing. So this was all pretty cool under there. This is all ancient Fortress of Antonia stuff. So not a part of the original Temple Mount. So anyway, you notice that Eastern Gate. The camera kept going on out there, making a big deal about the Eastern Gate. And we don't have it on video when they were talking about it, but they went to Ezekiel chapter 44, where it says, verse 1, "Then he brought me back the way of the gate of the outward sanctuary, which looketh toward the east, and it was shut." Did you notice that the gate was shut when we showed it? "And the Lord said unto me, The gate shall be shut, it shall not be open, and no man shall enter in by it, because the Lord the God of Israel hath entered in by it. Therefore it shall be shut. It is for the prince he shall sit in it, to eat bread before the Lord. He shall enter in by the way of the porch of the gate, and shall go out by the way of the same." And so what they'll say is that Jesus went through that particular gate at his triumphal entry, and now that gate is closed, and it's not going to be opened again until Jesus goes through it again. The problem is that's not the gate he went through. For one, they told us this later, and it had me scratching my head. That gate that you actually see there was built a few hundred years or several hundred years after the time of Christ. That is not even a gate that dates back to the time of Christ. And then two, that's just not the whole area to begin with. So, that was frustrating. But then that, people will say, well, what's Ezekiel 44 all about? What does that have to do with? Well, if you read Ezekiel 40 through 48, he's telling them about this temple that's going to be built, a temple that the Messiah would build. And Zechariah talked about a temple that the Messiah would build. It says in Zechariah 6:12, "And speak unto him, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, Behold, the man whose name is the branch, he shall grow up out of this place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Even he shall build the temple of the Lord, and he shall bear the glory, and sit and rule upon his throne, and he shall be a priest upon his throne, and the counsel of peace shall be between them both." And then verse 15 says, "And they that are far off shall come and build in the temple of the Lord, and ye shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me unto you, and this shall come to pass if ye will diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God." So what was being explained here about the branch coming and building the temple, this was something that was a part of that old covenant that they did not keep. They did not follow the Lord. They did not diligently obey the voice of the Lord their God. So when Jesus came to this earth, we don't see him build a temple. After he went through that gate, it was only a short time after that, they crucified him. In Ezekiel chapter 37, People like to bring this verse up all the time. And it says, and David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments and observe my statutes and do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, even they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. Y'all see that? He will set his sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify Israel, and my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So you say, Pastor Tommy, you saying that isn't going to happen? Not in that way. This was a promise. This is how things would have played out had they followed the old covenant. There were certain conditions there that Israel did not keep. And people are reading this passage today and saying, this is for Israel, this is for Israel, this is something that's for them. But notice what it said there, how it mentioned that he was going to dwell with them and be their God. He would be his people, and that his temple, it would be in the midst of them. Well, and it would last forever. Okay? So if you're going to reject replacement theology, you need to be looking for a temple, a physical temple that is going to be built, that Ezekiel 40 through 48 prophesied, where sacrifices will be made that last forever, that has a Levitical priesthood forever. That's what you need to be looking for, and that's what you need to be expecting. However, I believe in replacement theology. I believe the new covenant replaced the old covenant, and the new covenant came with better promises. There are many promises that we see in the Old Testament that are still going to be fulfilled under the new covenant, but they are fulfilled in a better way. And one thing that's better is there's not going to be a temple. There's not going to be sacrifices under the new covenant. Jesus Christ was the final, he was the perfect sacrifice. And proof of this is in Revelation 21. Verse 1, it says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. That sounds very similar to what we see in Ezekiel chapter 37. And unless you want to have two different gods dwelling with two different people forever, then we have to assume this is the same thing. This is what is to come. And notice in verse 22, it says, and I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. You want to know why the Jews haven't tried building another temple? It's because they believe that the Messiah has to come and build a temple based on Old Testament prophecies, not realizing that when the Messiah came, they killed him. They killed the Messiah. Now, when they did that, they were supposed to come. He was supposed to purify the people, and then they were going to offer an acceptable sacrifice. But the truth is, they ended up offering Jesus as a sacrifice. He ended up becoming the sacrifice for sins, and that is better. Now we don't have to have a Levitical priesthood forever. Jesus Christ replaced the priesthood with himself as the high priest after the order of Melchizedek. He replaced all these things with something that is better, and the Jews don't realize they missed their opportunity to get what the old covenant promised. But the truth is, it's not too late for them. If they'll get saved now, if they'll believe on Christ now, they could receive the better promises that come under the better covenant. And I'm just here to tell you that the temple that is to come, it is going to be a fraud. It is going to be an antichrist temple, and it's going to be used to deceive people, and it's not even going to be in the right place. And yet even so-called Christians are going to go along with it. And so anyway, I just wanted to share this with you. I thought it was interesting watching that old footage. I thought you might, enjoy that, but you're not supposed to laugh, once again, at the coffee filter on the head. Didn't know any better. I went and bought a ball cap after that, so I wouldn't have to wear one of those anymore, which you would see in later footage if I showed it. But anyway, if you didn't watch that message, or that video about the real Temple Mount location, make sure you watch that, and go watch my sermon on the hypocrisy of rejecting replacement theology. People today are looking for old covenant fulfillments to take place, basically rejecting the new covenant with the Jews. That's garbage. That needs to be stopped. So anyway, I hope you got a blessing from this. God bless you. We'll talk to you later.